Aloha, I'm Carolyn Tanaka, and welcome to Live at the Legislature, where every week I'll be sitting down with members of the House of Representatives to talk about issues, concerns, legislation, and good gossip moving through the halls of the state capitol. Joining me this morning is Representative Todd. He represents District 2 from the big and beautiful Hawaii Island. Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
You know, before we get into legislation, concerns, issues, and all that kind of stuff, I want to talk a little bit about you. I want to get to know a little bit about Todd. You are the second youngest member in the House of Representatives. And tell us a little bit about what you do and where you come from.
Sure. So I'm born and raised in Hilo. But third or fourth generation in Hilo specifically. And, I feel like, with my age or, my background, I used to manage a fish market. I'm a football coach. That's kind of a unique set of circumstances. And it gives me maybe a different perspective on, current state government and affairs. So I'm hoping that by bringing that, maybe that gives us a broader perspective, and I can add some of that level of expertise to those specific areas to what we're doing now.
Well, I know you've got a beautiful baby girl, and you've been serving here since 2017. So tell me, what are the issues, concerns for the people in your district?
Yeah, and I think in a way, having my daughter who's 20 months old, her name's Ruby, having her, kind of changes my perspective a little bit. And I see how difficult it is raising children in Hawaii. And that's with how much help me and my wife have. That's with both of my parents being retired and her parents being retired, and them being able to help out, while I'm up here or while my wife is at work. She's a teacher. So seeing how difficult it is for us to make that work in the best possible circumstances, I think that's really been a, kind of an eye-opener in terms of what families are currently going through. And, and I think in my experience as a football coach, I deal with kids who are, oftentimes from the toughest backgrounds. And seeing, kind of some of those scars that they bring with them by the time they're in high school, I'm really hoping that, whether it's through the majority package or various things pushing through the legislature, that we can really help to address some of that difficulty that families are currently going through.
Well, okay, since you started talking about that, I think it's very interesting. You are the face of Hawaii's growing young families who, you probably have friends who have been having a difficult time here. So let's talk a little bit about the joint package. And we should say the joint package, it's a series of bills that are economic package that's designed to alleviate the cost of living issues. So I know you sit on the Finance Committee, one of the more powerful committees. Let's take a look at that from that perspective. Do you think this package will be too costly or anything?
Oh, no, not at all. I think one of the things that I've learned in my very limited time here, because I am relatively new, is that there's money if we want there to be money. We do have a lot of flexibility. We're not at a breaking point fiscally where we have to turn off the money faucet or anything like that. So I think as long as we're creative in how we're generating that revenue and ensuring that that's not a burden placed on local families that are currently struggling to make ends meet, I do think there's a real opportunity to shift the way we tax people, shift the way we fund programs and roll out programs to really do a lot more for the working family than we are currently doing. So I think this is a real opportunity to take a step forward in that direction.
As we know, this package is made up of four bills, but they all work in unison to address the affordability issue here. There's been a lot of discussion, though, on individual bills.
Sure.
And so let's talk about one, the minimum wage bill, where there has been some pushback. That bill would raise the minimum wage to $13 by the year 2024. There's been some pushback on that. Some people want it higher. What do you say to people who want that?
Sure, and I understand that. And even within our caucus and within the building, you have a variety of opinions. There are people who would probably prefer no increase in the minimum wage, and people would prefer all the way up to $17. And the people on the outside need to understand, and I understand that that's that sounds like I'm an insider, and I don't want it to sound like that's the case. But just being realistic, we have to find a way to pull all of these unique opinions together and form something that is the best possible legislation. So while we may have individual members who'd like a higher minimum wage or a lower minimum wage, this seems to be the vehicle that has the best chance of advancing. And I don't want things to happen like last year, where we have minimum wage legislation on the table that I feel can be really beneficial, but we can't find that magic dollar amount, and so things fall to the side. So I'm hoping that whether it's $13 or if over the course of the legislature that number shifts a little bit, I'm hoping that we can actually pass something that's going to put more money into the hands of everyday working people.
There's another issue, another pillar in that economic package, and it has to do with school facilities, which is something that I think especially impacts schools on the Big Island. Can you talk about that a little?
Yeah, and I don't think there's a lot of recognition, even on the Big Island or even within Hilo. But there was recently a statewide school facility survey compiled and released to the DOE, and it's publicly available. Hilo has the worst school infrastructure in the state. And part of it is that our schools are so old. I went to Kaumana Elementary, Hilo Intermediate, Hilo High School. All three of those schools are 100 years old. So part of it is that this initial construction was done during a plantation era where our standards for construction and how much space is required to learn were much lower than what is the modern standard and what has been shown to lead to better educational outcomes. So in investing in a school facilities agency and hopefully kind of churning this process a little bit quicker, because right now it's very stagnant, very difficult to get money moving. Hopefully we can really start to address that problem statewide, but also in East Hawaii specifically, where I don't think people have a recognition of just how poor our facilities currently are relative to the rest of the country and even the rest of the state at the moment.
Well, so and this bill would take the responsibilities of school construction out of the DOE.
Yes.
And so and set up a separate agency, and you believe that would be the most efficient way to go?
I believe so. And I think part of it is the DOE is already the largest school district in the country in terms of its responsibilities and its scope. And it can already feel very top-heavy and bureaucratic. And that's not necessarily the fault of the people who are there. It's just the nature of the DOE's construction right now. So I'm hoping that in freeing that up, that we have a smoother, more transparent, but also just a more rapid process in addressing these issues.
Well, you know what? We've got 20 seconds left. So this time has gone by very quickly. We weren't able to talk about a lot of the stuff that, the legislation you've introduced, Banyan Drive, which is a big issue for the Hilo area. But if you promise to come back, we'll do that.
That sounds good.
Okay. Thank you, Representative, for joining us this morning.
You.
And thank you to all of you. We will see you next week, Tuesday. Aloha.
What are you doing? We have to go. I'm gonna be late for work.
It's Tuesday morning. I gotta record live at the legislature on Alelo. Senate and House leadership discussing what's happening at the state capitol.
So just watch it on the news tonight. Come on, let's go.
Hey, this is like getting the news before it's news. If only I could get this remote to work.
There. Can we go now?
No DVR? No problem. Watch Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. on Channel 49.
Every year, thousands of children go missing in Hawaii. Sometimes they're taken by a stranger or a family member. Sometimes they become lost, run away, or even forced out of their homes into danger on the streets. Aloha, I'm Amanda Leonard with the Missing Child Center Hawaii. We are a program within the Department of the Attorney General, and our mission is to protect missing and exploited children by using every possible resource to locate, recover, and reunite them with their families and caregivers. The consequences for missing children and their families are devastating. Educating yourself and your children about child safety, including what they share online, is their best protection against abduction and exploitation. If your child is missing or if you have information on a missing child, please contact us. Please also visit our webpage for more information on our services, our KKID program, and a list of Hawaii's missing children so that you can help us bring them home. Mahalo.
Aloha and welcome back to Live at the Legislature for our weekly Senate segment. I'm your Senate Communications Director, Jesse Broder Van Dyke, and our guest this week is a former broadcast journalist turned Senator, Glenn Wakai. Glenn, thanks for being here this week.
Oh, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So you chair the Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism Committee, and one of the issues that's been in the news a lot lately is the fears of the COVID-19 coronavirus. Can you tell us what the latest is with that?
Well, worldwide, there are 80,000 individuals that have been identified as carrying the disease. And being that Hawaii is such a tourist-driven economy, we should really be concerned about some of those individuals landing up here. We should have a very robust screening process to make sure that those who are coming in from foreign countries have a wonderful and beautiful stay here, but at the same point, don't infect us as locals or fellow tourists as well. So we really need to be vigilant in screening these individuals who are coming here from outside the United States.
So we just saw on screen a image that the State Department of Health put out this week. They're going to be putting up a sign at the airports warning anyone who's been to China to contact them immediately if they're going to be in Hawaii for more than 3 hours. And the UH Research Institute recently released a study saying that tourism could drop as much as 30% over these international fears. Are we doing enough right now to prepare?
No, we're not. When you look at the tourism market, the top 3 countries outside of China that have infections are South Korea, Italy, and Japan. Japan and Korea are hotbed marketing opportunities for the state of Hawaii. Collectively, Japan and China bring in 2 million visitors a year. That's 2 million opportunities for them to bring that infectious, terrible disease to our shores. We don't even have testing kits here in Hawaii. So although we say we have no confirmed cases, well, we really can't say that because we have no testing kits. If I get a sample from you, I send it to Atlanta to the CDC, and in a week they'll tell me, Jesse, yes or no. We have to be much quicker in our response time than that. So I understand there's going to be testing kits coming here in March. That's a really good step forward, but we really have to make sure that as best we can, our screening process is bulletproof at the airports.
Well, we'll be monitoring the situation closely, and we're going to continue putting updates out on our Hawaii Senate social media accounts, and the Department of Health is releasing daily updates now, so we'll continue following that. Let's move on to a happier subject now, Aloha Stadium. You recently helped to get $350 million in funding to redevelop the stadium. Where does that stand?
That was a 10-year process, Jesse, and we finally got the $350 million last year. We're in the middle of an EIS, that's an environmental impact statement that should be done in July of this year, and from there we'll go out to bid, and hopefully by the end of this year have a bidder, and hopefully by this time next year we are going to start moving dirt. And we see some renderings here. This is not going to be your grandfather's Aloha Stadium. This is going to be the stadium of the 21st century, one that embodies mixed use. So the stadium itself will be the centerpiece as we see in this video, but it's not going to be the only piece on 100 acres. It's going to be surrounded by mixed-use development. What does that mean? That means hotels, restaurants, shopping, affordable housing, you name it, we want to put it there because we can't have a facility, a stadium sitting around on a 100-acre parking lot. That is doing very little community benefit for the people of Hawaii.
So how is the retail and the hotels and the affordable housing and all that going to help the stadium project?
It's going to bring in money. You know, Hawaii, we're land rich, cash poor. We don't know how to monetize our lands properly. Here's the case in point where we have a golden opportunity. And, you know, I know people that are out there love parks and they love public use facilities, but this is an opportunity for us to make money. If you don't want to start paying more for rail, childhood education, and healthcare, we need to start monetizing our assets. And here's an opportunity to make sure that we will not be increasing your taxes because we can bring in a substantial amount of revenues from utilizing the Aloha Stadium lands.
Aloha Stadium was opened in 1975, which is almost half a century ago.
Were you born?
I was not born. I was born in 1978.
I was born. I saw the Hawaii Islanders play in that stadium. But right now, it's a money pit. It costs us $16 million a year to just keep that place standing. And you and I talked earlier, when it was built before you were born, it cost $37 million. And now we're looking at $350 million. So you can see, it's like having a 1974 Datsun. At a certain point, it's time to just get rid of that baby because it's too much to change the carburetors on it and fix it up. We got to get the jalopy out of our way and build something that also is mixed use itself, that stadium. right now it only has football configuration. We want to embrace rugby. We want to embrace soccer in there as well. So we have a golden opportunity right in front of us, and we're on a very, very quick timeline.
And why is it so important to do it within 3 years, and is that even possible?
It's very possible. It's very ambitious. We're not going to do this as Rail 2.0. It's not going to be over budget, and who knows when it's going to be done. We have a clear timeline that it's going to cost $350 million, and it's going to be done by 2023 for the glorious football season for the University of Hawaii.
And the new rail station is going to be operating at that time, and how's that going to be integrated?
Well, I don't want to speak for the city, but just like coronavirus, we're going to cross our fingers and and hope that things come together well. But regardless of the city and the rail being there, I mean, this is a state project, and it's going to be on budget and on time.
Okay, and it's going to be available for football, rugby, soccer, and concerts?
Yep. I'm even trying to think about having a golf range inside the stadium as well. So the top golf guys who were at Alawai and trying to do the project there, I'm trying to bring them into building out a facility within the stadium to launch golf balls while the stadium is dark. I mean, we got to be making mixed use. When the stadium is active, those golf bays would be turned into luxury boxes. You got to use a little bit of creative thinking for the future of this build out.
Sounds like it's going to be a fun experience.
Certainly will be. See you there.
Okay, I can't wait. When's the Beyonce concert going to be?
Well, we'll build it and hopefully she'll come.
Okay. It's like Field of Dreams.
Yes, indeed.
And so before you were a senator, you were in broadcast journalism. How has that influenced your political career?
I think that journalism is the best precursor to life in politics. Mm-hmm. The analogy of a journalist is you're a mile wide and an inch thick. In politics, you're a mile wide and 10 feet deep. Journalism teaches you to distill a large amount of information in a very short period of time, and that's what we deal with here. You get a master's degree in everything when you're here at the legislature, and I love the learning that goes on here. But ultimately, we have to make decisions, and you have to be able to quickly distill all the details and to figure out, like, what's your position, yes or no?
You really have to be able to know about every single subject that's affecting the state.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can't just worry about the stadium. I've got to worry about healthcare on Kauai. I've got to worry about public safety with a volcano on the Big Island, right? I can't just ignore the fact that I have brothers and sisters across the state who have urgent needs as well. So that part of it is really fun, refreshing, and very fulfilling.
Well, thanks so much for coming on this week. I'm really looking forward to watching UH football in the new facility.
Yeah, go Warriors. Just win, baby.
All right. Thanks so much, Senator Glenn Wakai. And we'll be back here again next week here on Live at the Legislature. Thank you so much.
Aloha.
Your government needs you. The Hawaii State Legislature is encouraging citizens to get informed and involved. With thousands of bills introduced every year, it can be hard to keep up on the issues that matter most to you. Located on the 4th floor of the state capitol, the public access room is filled with knowledgeable and friendly staff to help you. This is your Hawaii, your state capitol. Get informed, get involved, and get the government you want.
Aloha.
Legislators, are you looking for an efficient way to get a timely message across to your constituents? Look no further than Olelo's suite of easy access services. We offer a mini studio designed to help you create a short message or a 30-minute program. We also offer basic production training where you can learn how to produce, shoot, and edit your own videos. Access to broadcast media has never been easier. Reach out to your constituents. Visit olelo.org for more information.
Good morning and welcome back to Live at the Legislature.
Joining us this morning is the representative from Mililani, District 36, Representative Val Okimoto. She is a former special education teacher and sits on the Committee on Lower and Higher Education. Okimoto, good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
This segment, we're going to be talking about school safety. I think a number of different perspectives from your background. We'll start off with there was a tragedy that happened in your community yesterday. Can you tell us a little bit what happened, and I guess what you heard throughout the process as news was unfolding?
Well, I'm grateful for the team that we have here. I actually was on another all-day meeting with the tourism industry yesterday, and throughout the day I was getting updates about the incident that happened in my district at Mililani High School. It was around 3 students. 2 of them were victims, and the other was the person who had allegedly done the incident. And so, yeah, there was a stabbing on campus, and as a teacher and a parent, of course, that's very concerning. I just want to thank, Principal Murphy, Fred Murphy from the Mililani High School. He was at the forefront of this, and I was able to get updates from him this morning, as well as keeping in communication with him. So, there was a stabbing, and I think the neat thing that I appreciated hearing, you hear different reports on social media as well as on the news, but what I loved hearing was that within 3 minutes of the incident happening, they had the school on lockdown. Now, every school, every year, we have to do lockdown or emergency drills, and that's one of them. One of the drills is a lockdown drill, and I've been able to participate in them every year as a teacher. And also, some of the schools that I actually worked at, we had incidents on campus where we had a lockdown. And the lockdown is when you want to keep everybody in the classrooms for safety because there's a harm outside of the classroom. And that happened yesterday. I believe the lockdown was for about an hour, and within that time, they were able to have the victims removed and then the police take care of what they needed to. And so I felt that the school did a really wonderful job in addressing the needs of everybody involved. And so I'm grateful again for the leadership that we have. I'm proud that I have this wonderful school and the leadership that Principal Murphy has been providing yesterday and continues to do today. And so for maybe the folks who haven't heard the story, I believe it was a senior who had stabbed 2 juniors. And as an elected official, how did you receive this information? Was this in real time, and then how down the line? Right. So great question. With social media nowadays, everything it's really published really instantly. But I've also learned that you can't trust everything that you hear through social media. So I was getting updates throughout the day from the team here, but I was also able to get. I heard feedback this morning from the student government leader as well as Principal Murphy. So I did hear things throughout the day. I watched the news and read the paper today, but I think the most valuable information I got was one-on-one with Principal Murphy and speaking with him today. And did he give you the condition of the students who were stabbed? Yes. So the male student was released yesterday. The girl, the one girl victim, and they're both juniors. She is in the hospital and will be released today. And they're both doing well. The families have all been contacted. And again, I think the important thing is that we continue to support. What I appreciated from Principal Murphy today was that he today will have another 18 people, support staff on campus coming from other schools within the district or nearby, counselors, vice principals, teachers, to offer continued support. The school is open. However, he understands that there may be students or families who would like to have their students stay home, and he's understanding to that. Some might not have that support system at home, so he's offering that support on campus, which I think is a wonderful resource. And going back to the lockdown, this was something that you experienced, professionally before you were an elected official, and given the success of yesterday's lockdown, thankfully there was no one else hurt. Is this something that the state is doing well on a broad level? Are the safety standards up to how you would see fit for if your daughter was at the high school? Yeah, again, I'm grateful. I think that they handled it really well. From my experiences in the 2 schools that I taught at before being in this position, I feel like the drills that we're required to do and the administration and the way they handled it, I think is really well. And I think that he did a really good job, again, in addressing in a timely manner. We can't rush things because obviously it became, at that point, a scene that a crime was committed on. But I feel that the way the DOE sets up their emergency preparedness, emergency drills is a really good thing. It's an indicator of what we can be prepared for. And there's many drills. We have to do fire drills, lockdown, shelter in place, even earthquake drills, but lockdown is one of them.
And this is unfortunately the stabbing that happened yesterday at Mililani. School violence is something that's happening nationwide, and even personally, there was a shooting on my college alma mater, and there's a pattern of behavior with people who do this kind of thing. And so, as a mother, the educators can't do it all. They can't always tell if a student is having a lot of trouble mentally, or if these red flags are coming up. So, what is your recommendation to lower this trend nationally, and
I think that's a great
sure
question.
It doesn't happen again.
With increased violence in schools happening, and actually the newspaper today mentioned that stabbings on schools here in Hawaii is not a common thing. But for me, as a parent and an educator, I think there's a gap that we need to address, and that's again the social and mental well-being of our keiki. You guys, I guess even my children, they grow up in a different generation than I do, where everything is instant. Electronic devices are there, and I feel like there's wisdom and there's a value in unplugging from these devices and talking to your children. We in Mililani have character. We have 6 pillars of character that we work on from the time they enter school in kindergarten until they leave the high school. And I think that's something that as parents we need to have instilled in the home. We talk to our children. I know that Hawaii, because it's such a hard place to financially live in, that parents are working so hard, but really when it comes to the safety and the well-being of our children, I think there's value in kind of unplugging and having our children unplug, talking to them, making sure that we know what's going on, who are their friends, what are their interests, when they're having a hard day. I do that with my kids. I say, tell me how your day was. Okay, tell me something that maybe bothered you today, or something that went well. And I think in plugging into our children more, society, I feel like would be a different place if we would spend more time investing in the emotional and well-roundedness of our children.
Absolutely, and I think yesterday from the reporting, it said that the student who allegedly did that, had a crush on one of the other students, and just that pattern of loneliness with children. And so, is there anything that could be done at that age, or if you were a parent, you saw that? Do you see preventative measures?
Right. We always, as parents, we try our best to do everything we can. And I think you never want to blame any parents. However, I feel that definitely talking to the children. I think our keiki of today could learn more coping skills, again, because they're brought up in a world where everything is instant. And they've put their value or their worth on how many likes they get on a social media post. And that's not really where the focus should be. I was, from my all understandings from the accounts that I've heard, that it was a little a love triangle, and I think that it's unfortunate that he wasn't able to feel that he could express his frustration or disappointment in a different way other than acting out in violence. And I think that's again something that if teachers identify it, if friends see it, or parents, talk to those around us, talk to our children. And sometimes the signs are hidden, but if you're having that open dialogue, hopefully at some point you have, that come out, or that could be a concern that could be addressed.
Excellent. And Representative Okimoto, thank you for joining us this morning and giving us a very diverse perspective on a very complex issue. And to the viewers at home, thank you again for joining us this week. In the meantime, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at High House GOP.